Hello friends, Fujo here with another Hearthstone cards in WoW video. Today we will be looking at the legendary class cards in the upcoming Rastakhan's Rumble expansion and seeing where they have existed in WoW's history. In this expansion, each class has 2 legendaries, so we will be looking at a total of 18 cards, plus 1 neutral honorable mention and 1 dishonorable omission. Let's get started. First up is the Priest Legendary Princess Talanji, the 8-mana 7/5 battlecry. Summon all minions from your hand that didn't start in your deck. She's a recent addition to WoW, being added in the Battle for Azeroth patch 8.0. Princess of the Zandalari Empire and daughter of God King Rastakhan, who we've already seen in Hearthstone. She plays a central role in the Battle for Azeroth continent, being introduced early in the Horde campaign and is expected to play a large role in WoW's upcoming 8.1 patch. Next up is Bwansamdi the Dead, 7-mana 7/7 battlecry. Draw 1 cost minions from your deck until your hand is full. He's a powerful Loa that controls the spirits of the dead. He was in WoW during Wrath of the Lich King expansion and has returned for Battle for Azeroth. In Wrath, he aided Zul Jin to defeat Zalazane before taking his leave. In Battle for Azeroth, he's been re-added into WoW and plays a large role in its story as players aid him in finding a way to contact a now, spoilers, deceased Zul Jin, and it looks like he will continue to have an impact on WoW, being heavily involved in the upcoming 8.1 patch. Next up is the Warrior Legendary Akalai the Rhino, 8-mana 5/5 beast with Rush, Overkill, draw a Rush minion and give it +5/+5. Akalai is the Loa of Rhinos. He's held in chains by his worshippers outside the gates of Gundrak in World of Warcraft. The players free Akalai at one point, however the Prophet of Akalai drinks some of the Loa's blood, gaining some of its power, and sadly, killing Akalai. Next up is Warmaster Voon, the 4-mana 4/3 battlecry. Copy all dragons in your hand. Now we're talking about a classic WoW character. He was a level 59 elite mini-boss found in Lower Blackrock Spire. He was a very straightforward tank and spank boss, like many bosses at the time, that was immune to stuns, but hit reasonably hard for his location. There isn't much to add about the Warmaster, but the inclusion of such a obscure character like this has to be appreciated. Next up is the Rogue Legendary Growl the Shark, 5-mana 2/2 beast battlecry. Eat a minion in your deck and gain its stats. Death Rattle, add it to your hand. Growl the Shark is the Loa of the sea and has domain over the deep ocean. His temple was destroyed and his servants killed by the Naga. While he isn't very present in WoW right now, it has been hinted that while his strength may be waning, his spirit to fight is still strong. It wouldn't be surprising to see more of this Loa in WoW moving forward. Next up is Captain Hook Tusk, the 8-mana 6/3 pirate battlecry. Summon 3 pirates from your deck, give them Rush. This troll pirate exists only in Hearthstone, and right as we get off the Maiden's Fancy in Booty Bay, we see this great looking generic troll, so I guess it makes sense for this creation as we might not want to class a legendary to just have a generic name like Bloodsail Corsair. Although, moving right along, we have the Warlock class legendary Hyreek the Bat, an 8-mana 1/1 beast battlecry. Fill your board with copies of this minion. Shudderwock, eat your heart out. Hyreek is the Bat Loa, and currently is in the Battle for Azeroth patch, and is killed by players with the aid of Jo Chunga. As a wild god with his primal manifestation killed, his spirit likely returned to the Emerald Dream, where it is bound, and might see a return later on in the expansion. The next Warlock legendary is High Priestess Jeklik, the 4-mana 3/4 taunt lifesteal. When you discard this, add 2 copies of it to your hand. She was High Priestess of the primal jungle god Hyreek, who we just saw, and was sent to Zul'Gurub to stop Hakkar. She was added to WoW in patch 1.7 all the way back in 2005, and was eventually defeated by the players, removing her from the game. Hence this old Zul'Gurub trailer video. In the WoW Cataclysm expansion, she was later added as part of a quest in Stranglethorn. Keeping with the theme of characters removed from WoW due to the Zul'Gurub update is the Paladin legendary High Priest Thekal, 3-mana 3/4 battlecry. Convert all but one of your hero's health into armor. He was High Priest of the primal god Shirvala and was also added into WoW in patch 1.7. Aside from being an interesting fight, he was often referred to as the Tiger Boss due to his transformation mid-fight and the 0.58% chance to drop the Swift Zulian Tiger mount, which at the time was the first Tiger mount available to the Horde. The second Paladin legendary is Shirvala the Tiger, 25-mana beast, 7/5 stats, Divine Shield, Rush, Lifesteal, costs 1 less for each mana you've spent on spells. Shirvala is the Loa of Tiger, whose last champion was High Priest Thekal. Shirvala is currently not in WoW, but a Priest of Shirvala can be found in the Hall of Lesser Loa in Battle for Azeroth. The art also seems a little strange, as others have already noted that it looks much more like Kimball from WoW's current expansion, Battle for Azeroth. The other large WoW reference comes from a point in Warlord of Draenor expansion, where Druids had a Claw of Shirvala talent they could choose at level 100, granting feral Druids access to an alternative half-man, half-cat form with increased stats. Moving right along, we have the Druid legendary Gonk the Raptor, 7 mana, 4/9 beast. After your hero attacks and kills a minion, it may attack again. Gonk is the Raptor Loa and master of the hunt. He has been credited with teaching both the Darkspear and Zandalari trolls on how to become druids, as the explanation for trolls gaining the ability to become a druid in WoW. Next is War Druid Loti, 3 mana, 1/2, choose one, transform into one of Loti's 4 dinosaur forms. She is the High Priestess of Gonk, and it looks like we're starting to see a bit of a pattern with some of these class legendaries, Loa and their associated priestess or priest. She is married to Hexlord Ral, High Priest of Paku the Pterodax, Loa, and BFA players will have to choose between these two Loas during their questing for a passive buff. Moving on to Mage legendaries, we start off with Jan'alai the Dragonhawk, 7 mana, 4/4 beast, battlecry. If your hero power dealt 8 damage this game, summon Ragnaros the Firelord. Jan'alai is the Dragonhawk Loa of the Amani Trolls. First appeared in the Burning Crusade in Zul'Aman, when his essence was stolen by Hexlord Malakras. Then appeared in Zuldrak and Wrath of the Lich King with the other Amani gods. Later appears in the Cataclysm expansion Chained once again in Zul'Aman, and finally in Battle for Azeroth has its disciples present in Talaman in Zuldazar. The second mage legendary is Hexlord Malakras, 8 mana, 5/5 battlecry. Add a copy of your opening hand to your hand, except this card, no infinite value allowed. Hexlord Malakras was a boss in the level 85 version of Zul'Aman. He was a powerful and feared witch doctor of the Amani tribe who gained his power by sealing the essence of several troll animal gods into his strongest champions. Moving on to the Hunter legendaries, we have our first hero legendary, Zul Jin, 10 mana, gain 5 armor, battlecry, cast all spells you've played this game, targets chosen randomly. Zul Jin has a storied history in Warcraft lore, appearing in Warcraft 2. In the second mission of the Horde campaign, Raid at Hillsbrad, yes, that same Hillsbrad where Thrall punched a horse, where Zul Jin needs to be rescued. His name is then mentioned in passing during Classic WoW, and then enters World of Warcraft universe in patch 2.3 as the final boss in the Zul'Aman raid, but is defeated by players and is now replaced by Dakara in what has become the Zul'Aman 5-man dungeon. He is also a playable character in Heroes of the Storm, as well as having a slightly ironic cheer from troll headhunters and bat riders in Warcraft 3, as they proclaim vengeance for Zul Jin, despite Horde players being responsible for his eventual death. Moving on, we have Hallows Ii the Links, the 5 mana 3/2 beast, battlecry. Fill your hand with 1/1 lynxes that have rush. Hallows Ii is the Amani Lord of Lynxes and is the 4th animal boss within Zul'Aman. He holds Kasha captive in a cage near his platform, and if she, along with the other captives, are released before the timer counts down, she rewards the players with the highly coveted Amani Battle Bear mount. Moving on to Shaman, we have Zentimo, 3 mana, 1/3. Whenever you target a minion with a spell, it also targets adjacent ones. When it comes to WoW, poor Zentimo. He's a witch doctor troll, worshipper of Kragwa the Huge, the Frog Loa, and can be found in Nazmir as part of the Horde questline in Battle for Azeroth. Last but certainly not least is Kragwa the Frog, 6 mana, 4/6 beast, battlecry, return all spells you played last turn to your hand. Kragwa is the giant frog Loa and can be found in Kragwa's burrow, located in the Frog Marsh in Nazmir. There was originally supposed to be a mount based on the spawn of Kragwa, included either as a reputation reward or from a questline, but was removed during the Battle for Azeroth beta. But the model has been reintroduced and the frog mount will be available in WoW in patch 8.1. Well, that wraps up all of the class legendaries for Rastakhan's Rumble, but I would be remiss if I did not make an honorable mention for Hakkar the Soulflayer, the Blood God, the final boss of the Zul'Gurub raid, added in September 13th, 2005. In addition to being a super cool boss in a great 20-player raid, it led to one of WoW's most prolific moments. Hakkar would apply a debuff called Corrupted Blood, which would apply a dot to players, resulting in damage every few seconds. Corrupted blood could then be passed on to players who were standing nearby and force the raid to spread out to avoid putting too much stress on the healers. Now, the debuff would not persist if players tried to teleport or Hearthstone out of the raid, but very quickly players learned that if a pet gained the debuff and was then dismissed very quickly, the timer on the debuff would stop. The pet could then be re-summoned once players were back in a major city, and the corrupted blood would infect players and NPCs alike. The debuff eventually left the highest populated towns covered in skeletons, as they were uninhabitable due to the presence of the plague. Blizzard quickly patched this issue, and this spread is sometimes affectionately referred to as the first true world event that WoW ever had. Due to its strangely positive reception, Blizzard planned a zombie infestation event as part of the pre-release for the Wrath of the Lich King expansion that only lasted a week and had a much more forgiving disease-spreading removal mechanic. It was great to see this type of WoW lore powerhouse included in Hearthstone. And now time for the one dishonorable omission from what very much looks like a troll expansion, Carrot on a Stick. Level 50 Trinket giving 3% faster mount speed was the epitome of classic WoW novelty items, and I know Gazrilla was already in Hearthstone, so let's not get bogged down on this silly item, especially since Hearthstone will have an opportunity to add this Carrot on a Stick and Mankirk to the classic WoW Hearthstone expansion coming out in 2019. You heard it here first. If that wasn't enough of a bold prediction, let's wrap this up by making a couple more predictions on how these cards will actually play out that I'm expecting to absolutely fall flat. I am expecting Zul Jin to be strong after rotation, but I don't think it's going to be the ultimate finisher that Deathstalker is for hunters right now. It's not going to be able to compete with the Build-A-Beast infinite value or the powerhouses of Bloodreaver Gul'dan or Frostlich Jaina. I think the Priest legendaries are fun, but I don't expect them to have a lot of power this expansion, but I do have my fingers crossed for the future of Priest. Mage looks set up to have a reasonable hero power based control deck after rotation as well, and I can see a couple of these cards getting sprinkled into the big Spell Mage shell. Lastly, I kind of like the spell synergy that Shaman is showing, and there might be some kind of sneaky OTK burst deck possible, which is maybe a little bit more scary than it is exciting. That's going to be it for this video. I hope you enjoyed taking a look at some of these Rastakhans, Rumbles, legendaries, and getting a better understanding of their World of Warcraft roots. I will be streaming Hearthstone content over at twitch.tv/Fujosevich throughout the Rastakhan expansion. Hope you all have good luck with your pack openings. Have a great day.